Am I the astronaut for refusing to pump for my mother-in-law? So I am a first-time mom, and this whole experience has been very overwhelming for me. My wonderful baby just hit 3 months and is officially no longer a newborn. I've been lucky enough that I have a good supply, so my baby girl is exclusively breastfed, except for any excess that we use when my husband does her night feeds. I have made it very clear to most of our friends and family that I don't want anyone but me or my husband feeding her. My mother-in-law has been slightly annoyed, bordering on judgmental about this, but has mostly kept her mouth shut. We've never had any issues in the past, so I just chalked it up to her not wanting to bond with the baby. I might allow it when she's older, but for now, I'm not comfortable with anyone else doing it. So we were over at my sister-in-law's house for her son's birthday, and while all the cousins and husbands played outside, me and all the ladies sat inside playing past the baby. She ends up in my mother-in-law's arms and begins to fuss and making her hungry cry. I stood up and went to take her before she pulled her back and told me to go make a bottle. I told her no, that I would go to the guest room and feed her. My sister-in-law stood too and said she had some formula and would make it for me.
Double no.
I refused again and quickly took my baby, saying she's never had formula and I don't want her to be sick. My mother-in-law sighs and rolls her eyes and asks, "Why don't you just pump some so I can feed my baby?" I must have been visibly horrified because one of my other sister-in-laws stood and tried to guide me away by my shoulder. I took her to the other room to feed her and sat there with her for the rest of the party. The sister-in-law whose party it was came to find me. I almost hit her when she said, "Don't you think it's a little selfish you won't let mom feed the baby? You could have just pumped a couple of ounces for her." I said, "I will never pump anything for anyone because I'm not a cow and she's my baby." She declared I was being bitchy and walked away. My husband doesn't know this is all happening, but on the ride home, his mother and 2 of the other wives texted me to tell me it was unfair to hog my baby and to make it so she couldn't bond with anyone else, and that I should have just pumped before I came so I didn't have to hide her away. My mother-in-law specifically said that I was being so selfish with her only granddaughter and that it wasn't fair to her that she couldn't even feed her baby. I just texted back that it wasn't her baby and put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I know I should tell my husband, but I don't want to add more strain as he and his mother are still trying to heal their relationship from when they had a big fight a couple of years ago. I don't want to cause drama, but I'm starting to feel very guilty, especially since I'm getting tons of texts about how cruel I'm being. Am I the asshole for refusing to pump for my mother-in-law? There is an edit here, but let's chat for just a second.
First of all, it's not mother-in-law's baby. It's OP's baby. And calling it her baby is just weird when she specifically said no to mother-in-law. NT-A. But I do think that OP needs to tell her husband to get ahead of the narrative that mother-in-law is for sure going to spin here. And sister-in-law is in on it too. And also, you cannot give an exclusively breastfed baby formula just like that. Like, there's going to be some kind of hiccup. You can't just go make a bottle out of the blue because somebody else wants to feed your baby. That's not how it works. And to imply that that's how it works, and when you say no, you're being a bitch, like, that would be the last time I step foot in your house, sister-in-law.
Yeah, and also, I think that you have to tell your husband this. Like, not telling your husband this and waiting and letting all this drama build up is only going to cause more problems. Mm-hmm. It's inevitable that you have to tell him. Get ahead of the narrative, because if you don't, mother-in-law will.
I can't imagine someone being like, "Oh, I have formula in the back of my cabinet. I'll just, whip up a bottle really quick," even though you 100% said no, because I think I know what's best for your baby.
Yeah.
It's so far overstepping.
Well, so I mean, OP does pump though, because
for her husband for nights.
For nights, but she's been very clear. So this boundary has been communicated.
I would have guessed multiple times.
Except, like, their wishes have been communicated. This is where that part needs to be created and established and instituted. Edit. My little sister choked whilst being fed by our great aunt and almost died. She hadn't been holding her properly, and my sister had to be rushed to the hospital. I was very young, but the memory is still fresh in my mind, even when my husband is feeding our baby. I never want my baby to be unsafe while I feed, and I worry about other people feeding her because of this. Okay, so there's some trauma that forces like a hypersensitivity here, and that's understandable. And being a brand new parent already unlocks a new level of anxiety that you didn't even know existed. So especially if there's previous trauma seeded in there, it's going to be a very kind of anxious time. which means that people disrespecting this is just that much worse. So here's the official update. So after everyone's suggestions, I decided I was going to talk to my husband when he got home from work. I put the baby down to sleep before initially posting, and I posted because of all the messages from mother-in-law and sister-in-laws. Apparently, his oldest brother's wife had called him today at work and told him what my mother had said and what the other wives had said when I left the room. They got there before you did. We sat at the kitchen table and I had him read the messages from start to finish. He was upset with me at first for keeping it from him, then hugged me and said he hated that I had to go through this alone. He went upstairs to call his mother. He told me after about 10 minutes on the phone that until the baby is a year old, mother-in-law will have minimal contact, as well as his sister not being allowed around the baby either. He told me to block both of their numbers for the time being, and so I did. He also told me that their fight 2 years ago was over his mother trying to get him back with his ex right after he proposed to me, and that's why they stopped talking for the rest of the year. And this is the first time OP is finding this out. He said he told his mother that if she pushes for more next time we give her an opportunity, that it would be her last chance at a granddaughter. This all had progressed so quickly, and everyone was right about talking to my husband. I wish I had gone right to him when it happened, but I was so worried to put more strain. Thank you all for the advice. Well, holy balls. Okay, so mother-in-law's...
green flags for hubby.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. Green flag for sure, hubby. Taking immediate action, protecting your wife, choosing your baby, and instituting some protective measures that make it harder for them to cause harm. Like, green flags all around for you. That's fantastic. When there's this kind of drama going on, like, I understand not wanting to cause your partner additional stress, but if it's something involving one of their family members, it's inevitable. Like, you're only causing more harm by not telling them, because you're allowing other people to get narrative control and to fill their head with something that you're going to have to overcome later on. Yeah. So what the...
And also, that was a traumatic experience for OP to be verbally shit on by her sister-in-law, to be treated like that by her mother-in-law, and for her not to tell her husband. I understand trying to protect him, but I would be worried that mother-in-law or sister-in-law would try to spin that into some kind of weird bullshit. Also,
if they are so viscerally opposed to you being with your husband, OP, I don't trust them to treat that baby well.
Yeah, it
because
sounds
that baby's half you.
Mother-in-law wanted him to be with his ex because she was more amenable, in my opinion.
Easier to control.
Absolutely. And based on sister's guard dog reaction, I would say that mother-in-law is a bit toxic.
Control of everybody. Yeah. Now there was one person there that helped remove OP from the situation.
Another sister-in-law.
Which could have talked shit as soon as she left the room, right? Like, we don't know whose team she's on, really. But that one person, I would have been like, could you hold my baby for a moment? And then I would have bitch slapped mother-in-law. And then I'd take my baby back and I'd go do my thing. You don't want to do that while you're holding a baby, obviously. Yeah.
I think that was probably the sister-in-law that had her back and told her what other people were saying when she left the room. There was one that communicated that. Okay. And I wonder if it's a sister-in-law that's married to a brother. So also an outsider.
Probably gone through all the shit.
Yeah.
Blah, gross.